What is up, guys? My name is Sal Menino. Today we are on episode 113 of the Flimsy Hat Podcast. Today I have Ron Been. My apologies. Ron Been. He's from Israel, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm originally from Israel, but
Israel?
don't
Okay.
live in Israel currently. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Cool. So tell us about yourself. Who are you, man?
Awesome. It's a pleasure to be in your podcast. Thank you for having me. As you said, I'm originally from Israel, but at the moment I live in Georgia. Um, I after serving in the special forces in Israel, most of the Israelis they go traveling. So I went traveling. Spent 2 years in South America, and then I started studying industrial engineering. And I finished 4 years of industrial engineering. And me and my wife, she studied architecture, and we were kind of in a junction. What should we do? Should we start working? Should we go traveling again? And we decided to go traveling. So we went to Southeast Asia. And while we were walking on a beach in Thailand, we said to ourselves, we must come back here as soon as possible. How can we do this? And we had no idea. Unfortunately, the trip has ended after 4 months, and we went back to Israel. And I started working in an ads agency. I was spending approximately $1 million on a monthly basis on Facebook ads, but not for my own pocket. Obviously, it was for like the people we were providing services to. And I realized after 3 months there is no upside, no downside. I'm just going to come to work, spend this $1 million, which are not mine, and I didn't see like where this thing is going to. Unfortunately, I met with a friend of mine for a cup of beer, and he showed me a screenshot from his Shopify store. And until that moment, I thought that Shopify stores and dropshipping is just like some BS that gurus are selling online and nobody's making actual profits from it. But since it was a childhood friend of mine and he showed me these numbers, so I decided I should open a store. So the morning after, me and my wife, we created a Wix store. And the same evening, we were pretty lucky. We got our first sale. And this is the moment that we realized we can make money online. And after like 2 years of running this store and working in an ads agency, we decided to quit our jobs, and we started doing this e-commerce full time. And long story short, we've been doing this for almost 6 years. In the last 4 years, we've been traveling while doing this. And at the moment, as mentioned, we moved to Georgia, and we're mainly providing consulting services to e-commerce store owners.
Nice, man. That's definitely an interesting experience for sure. So
Thank you.
what have your experiences been in your youth that kind of helped shape who you are today?
Great question. So basically, I think I have probably the most important period in my life was in the army, because as I mentioned, I served in the special forces and I served for 4 years. And my training period was 18 months. It was a very rigorous training period in which we learned many skills like rappelling and providing medics and shooting guns, rifles, whatever, like many different things, and very broad training. And after 18 months, I started serving in this special unit, which is a search and rescue unit. So I led more than 50 operations in which we came with a helicopter under fire, and we rescued soldiers. So this was, a very hectic experiences, but they demanded a lot, and they taught me a lot about what I can do, and the importance of discipline when training, and the importance of being precise when executing. So I think this is like the most important period in my life that impacted me a lot. Does this answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's great. What is an e-commerce entrepreneur?
This is another great question. It's a bit philosophical. I guess when you ask me what is e-commerce, so I just think e-commerce is a very broad definition, and many people don't realize that in the e-commerce games there are many sub games. I call it the game. So there is like the drop shipping game, which is more like you don't hold any inventory and you just drop ship products. There is, and even in the dropshipping game, you have like the marketplaces game, in which like you list your products on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, or whatever, and you have your own store game, which is if you build a Shopify store or a Wix store or whatever, and then you promote the product. So this is a sub game in the sub game division. and you also have like building a brand. So it's very broad definition. In my opinion, if you ask me like a one-liner regarding what is an e-commerce entrepreneur, is someone who owns a store and sells product, whether it is his product or just product that he is sourcing from China.
So you said that there's different categories within that e-commerce space, like drop shipping. But like, what are some of the other ones, and which ones do you see that are usually more successful than others, and which one do you do?
So you have I view it as a spectrum. So setting aside retail arbitrage, which is one game that we won't enter to, but dropshipping is one side of the spectrum, and having your own brand is the other side of the spectrum. And in between, you have different types of hybrid beasts, and it's basically the whole spectrum is concerned with regards to how do you create your product and how do you manage your inventory. So in dropshipping, you don't buy any inventory upfront. And when you have your own brand, you do need to make a big investment upfront, and then you need to try to push or market the products. So this is a very broad spectrum. And with regards to what is easier or what is more challenging, so obviously drop shipping, you have a very low barrier to entry because you just build a store and you try to promote the products, and if you got sales, so that's awesome, and you can start to scale it. So the barrier to entry is very low. But on the other hand, the barrier to success is very high because there are a lot of competitors, because it's very easy just to build a store and try to sell to sell products, and then there are a lot of competitors that are competing on the same audience. While when you build a brand, you do have to make an investment upfront, but then you can create a differentiation. You can differentiate yourself from the competitors. So I don't think there is something that is easier or harder. It just depends what suits your needs and your resources.
So going into the drop shipping more, because I have had a little bit of experience, because when I was still in high school, I was trying to look into that realm, and that was like the big thing that was like trending on, like, I don't know, probably Instagram or something like that. Social media is like, oh, get into drop shipping, you'll make millions, and then you see the numbers, you're like, oh, but then you go and try it and it just doesn't work. Is it necessarily the product? Is it the marketing? Or is it like a combination of both? Like, where do you see the most failure when people are starting out in dropshipping?
Great question. And like anything in life, I believe everything is context dependent. And I like viewing problems as equations with many variables and unknowns. So it's very hard to determine what is the problem. Sometimes it's going to be the marketing sucks. Sometimes it's going to be that the product sucks. Sometimes it could be that the fulfillment sucks. So it's really hard to determine. But there are mistakes that people do very often. I think it's with regards to they just don't know how to do media buying. And media buying refers to mainly Facebook ads, or these days a bit of TikTok ads. So they don't exactly know how to spend money, and people are very afraid, which is logical, to spend money in order to see results. And when you just start out, you spend like $10 and you're afraid, your hands are shaking. But to be honest, with $10 daily, you can't achieve anything, because you need it's about statistical significance, and you need to spend at least $300 or $400 just to start seeing some traction and understand and see data. So I think this is the most common misconception or mistake, that people enter the game with no experience running Facebook ads and with not enough capital to actually test and optimize based on the data.
So two questions on that. How much capital do you think you need to start like a successful drop shipping store? And then do you find, because I know when I looked into it, like some of the fulfillments were like 4 to 6 weeks. So like somebody bought a product on, let's say, like your site, but then like it's not shipped and delivered to the house 4 to 6 weeks. When you're competing with somebody like Amazon, like how do you compete with something like that? Or like, do you just look for certain products that will be delivered 2 to 3 days, like, or something like that? Like, how do you go into that?
Yeah, great question again. So first of all, with regards to fulfillment, as time goes by, because the market, because the many people, many business owners realize that many dropshippers that are struggling to fulfill the products fast. So they created solutions. So today there are more fulfillment options that allow you to fulfill the product faster than 4 to 6 weeks, like what you saw back in the days when you tested this out. Mm-hmm. So today you can pretty easily source your products from China and send it to a 3PL in the US or UK or wherever your customers are sitting, and it's going to be way cheaper, and the whole process is going to be way easier. So this kind of covers the fulfillment portion of this. With regards to can you clarify your first question?
Just to sure starting like right? Yeah, like how much starting capital would you say you need to build a successful drop shipping store in like today's world?
Yeah, so it's important that you add it in today's world, because again, it's very context dependent. So let's say you have a very good understanding of a specific pain and a specific market, and you have a domain expertise. Let's say you know exactly, let's say you're a golf enthusiast and you know exactly there is a missing, I don't know even example to give from the golf realm, but let's say you understand a certain market very well. So this will reduce the capital that you will need to have on the get-go. But if you're just starting like a general store, or you're going into the skincare game, or fashion, or sunglasses, which is like a very broad category, I wouldn't enter before I have at least 5K just to allocate for Facebook ads. And this doesn't mean that you can't pull it off with less. I mean, for me, after spending $600, we were already profitable. I mean, consistently, but it was also a matter of luck. And in the same fashion, it could have been turned out to be like spending 5K. So based on my observation, you need at least 5K, because you also don't want to be operating from fear. Because when you only like have $1,000 to operate your ads, so you do everything in a very like fearful state of mind, so you can't really see the data clearly. So this is why I think you need at least 5K to have this buffer, to be like more relaxed and do things from a logical perspective without being fearful.
In your own experience, do you think going to college is going to determine the factor of whether or not somebody's going to be successful or not? Or is it more towards the individual experiences somebody has?
Yeah, so as I said, I went to college and I studied industrial engineering, but I mean, as time went by, I feel that the degree has taught me more than I thought it taught. It taught me while I was studying, but I don't think it's mandatory, and I don't think it's crucial for one's success in life. And let's say I'm saying quote unquote success because everybody considers success differently. But let's say we're focusing on financial success. So I don't think college is mandatory for having financial success. I actually think that if you go and get a job and get trained and get trained on the job, and while you are doing this job you also have like some time off to build something, I think this is the fastest route to learning, because only when you do you can actually learn. And unfortunately, college it teaches theory, but theory and practice are different in practice. They are the same in theory, but they are different in practice. So I don't think college is so beneficial. But for some people it might be. But in my opinion, if you want to be financially successful, it's not necessarily the wisest route.
What advice would you give to a leader or somebody who's running maybe a company that isn't willing to do the work with the people in which they employ? If that makes sense. Like if they're
Can you clarify?
Like if they're almost like they have a mindset of like being a dictator, like, hey, I'm going to tell you to do this, this, and this, but I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not one to show you how to do it. I don't know why we're doing it. We're just doing it because that's how we do things. Like that's just, there's no rhyme or reason behind it, but that type of leader or business owner, CEO is just telling their employees to do that.
So you're asking what would be my advice to the leader or to the employees?
To the leader. Well, I guess and the employees, really.
I mean, for the employees, quit, and for or learn from. I mean, you have to observe and see what is working despite the leader being a dickhead, or is it because he's being a dickhead? Because the quote by Machiavelli is like an Italian philosopher or Italian politician So he asked, "What is it better to be loved or to be feared?" So, and this kind of relates a lot of leaders are running their companies with fear, and still things do get done, and you still see very powerful and strong and intimidating leaders running successful companies. So I don't think that being very demanding and very dictator is necessarily a bad way to conduct business in the short term, at least. But as an employee, I think you should observe and try to learn as much as possible from this leader slash dictator. And when the time comes and you feel that you are not getting enough from the work, just leave. And from the leader perspective, I mean, I guess try to automate more so you can fire people that are not doing a good enough job. And if things are working, so maybe that's the right way to go. I don't know.
All right. What products do good in e-commerce, and what products have you found just don't do good in e-commerce? Or I guess for your industry specifically.
Yeah, so it's also another, again, a great addition, because in the e-commerce games, there are, as we mentioned, there are different type of games in e-commerce, and specifically in the drop shipping and when you have your own store. So let's call this the Shopify game. So most of the people rely heavily on Facebook ads. And when you rely heavily on Facebook ads, this means that you need to sell products that have a wow factor. People are scrolling through the feed. I mean, they are walking, they are in the toilet, they are in bed. They don't have an intent of buying. And suddenly you show them an ad, and they have to see the ad and decide, okay, this product seems great. I should go to this store, which I never saw anything about in my life, and I should buy this product. So in regards to your question, I think that if you have a Shopify dropshipping store, the products that will do best are products who solve a very big problem for a very broad audience that do have a wow factor.
Okay. What is the best way to get into? I guess we'll go with the Shopify game, because that seems what you seem most knowledgeable on the Shopify game. Yeah. I'm assuming that's what you mainly focused on, was Shopify in the e-commerce. Yeah. So what would be the best way to get into that then?
I think what I mentioned before. So on one hand, if you have time and you don't have resources, I think you should find a job, and it would be better to find a job that relates to the Shopify store that you want to build. So let's say start as a junior media buyer, or start as a customer support representative, or start working in a fulfillment warehouse, just so you'll gain the knowledge and training while you're making a salary. And while doing so, I think you should, consume as many courses as possible in like 2 or 3 weeks time, because you want to restrict the consumption of courses, because you don't want to just consume courses until you're 60 years old. So you consume courses for like 1 month, and then just start building or investing the money you earned in your salary into your Shopify store, testing while you're optimizing the store. You should maybe potentially seek a mentor, but this really depends on your resources. But mostly try to learn while you're getting paid things that could benefit you when building a business.
What marketing tips would you give somebody in e-com?
It's a very, there are many answers. We can record like a 30 hours conversation just about this. But if I need to condense, the answers are probably 2 things. Put yourself in the shoes of your customers and ask yourself, is it a no-brainer? If it doesn't seem like a no-brainer, so people probably won't buy. And the other thing is conduct usability tests. Do you know what is a usability test?
I don't know.
Okay, you just get a few people that are potential customers of yours, and you hop on a Zoom call with them, and you ask them to let's say make a transaction. And while they are doing the whole journey, the whole funnel, you ask them to verbally communicate to you what they are feeling and what they are seeing. And when you speak with the potential users or potential customers, you gain a lot of knowledge regarding your funnel. What is missing, what doesn't look well, what is convincing, what might promote the conversion, what are the frictions that arise during the funnel. So I think many people are reluctant to speak with the potential users because they just prefer being behind the keyboard. But I think this is a very impactful, and it's kind of a low-hanging fruit. You just get 5 people on a Zoom call, pay them a few bucks, and ask them regarding your funnel and see how is the reaction.
What has been a tough decision you've had to make in your own business?
Tough decision. Tough decision in the business is something that becomes so common you don't even consider it as tough after a certain point. But let's say the toughest decision. I think that when we left Israel 2 years ago, we had to decide whether we are going to rebuild the store on a different platform or rebrand the store. And it was like a very big junction with regards to where we wanted to take the store next, because we already had, like, we were doing great numbers, but we felt that the store wasn't a long-term asset. So we kind of had a junction with regards to, okay, should we keep on pouring money and create this cash cow, or should we try to build an asset? So this was, I think, the most meaningful decision that we had.
When you're working with successful e-com businesses, what commonalities do you tend to find in the people that run them?
I wish I could say being data-driven, but I don't see this very often, that people are very data-driven. I think this is something that is actually lacking. And I think that if people would be data-driven, it would benefit their business more. But what I do observe is people who are testing a lot of different things. So mostly testing a lot of angles for marketing and a lot of creatives. I think this is key, like testing very fast, very high velocity, a lot of volume of ads and different product pages and different funnels. Because at the end of the day, when you gain experience as a marketer, you realize that you know shit about what will work. I predicted so many things that would work and they eventually failed, and things that I thought would fail eventually worked. So, and because of this, I know that the real goal is in the testing. So we need to test as fast as possible, in my opinion, and move as fast as possible, because you don't know what will, blow up in a good way. So testing very fast is something that I observe.
For someone who says that either A, e-com will never work, or B, it's too saturated, what would you say to these people?
These are very common objectives.
I'm aware. I've been there.
With regard to saturated, let's say people have been selling shoes for years now. What is the difference between Puma, Adidas, Nike, Lotto, Umbro? Is that a saturated market? Is sunglasses a saturated market? Is our perfumes a saturated market? And you still see new brands coming up all the time and becoming successful. So basically, to be honest, most of our needs are fulfilled from a materialistic standpoint as a society, let's say in the US or in Israel. There is enough shoes brands and sunglasses brands and t-shirts brands that can accommodate our needs. But still, you see new brands coming up. So it's not a matter of something being saturated or not. If you're unable to pull it off, it's because you didn't find, you were not able to successfully differentiate yourself from the competitors. But I think I don't believe in this term, saturated market.
I like that. That's one of the best answers I've gotten for a question like that.
Awesome, great.
What is your?
Do you disagree? Do you disagree or?
No, I think you
probably agree, but what?
I think you brought a different perspective to it, because I think a lot of people are always like, they just, I guess it comes from the idea of like, it's human nature to think negatively about a situation, right? So and I think it's almost like a self-doubtful ideology that like, okay, like if I started it, like it's not going to work, and there's already take like a fitness Shopify drop shipping store, for example. There's thousands of them, right? So like in your head, you're like, well, this is never going to work because somebody's already selling exercise bands. So like, I think that's where that idea comes from. Like, all right, well, this isn't going to work because you could just go buy, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like a Gold's Gym power band or something like that. Like, what's different about yours? And yours is going to take longer to get here to me than going on Amazon and getting it. You know what I mean? So I think people have that that self doubt that's why those things won't ever work.
It's very easy. It's very easy to look for the excuse. But let's say, for example, with regards to your example, so Gymshark, you know this brand?
Yeah, Gymshark.
They started as a drop shipping store, and I'm pretty sure that before Gymshark started, the market was saturated. I mean, people were selling enough, yoga clothes and gym stuff before Gymshark. Yet Gymshark came and they found like an angle in the market that was not fulfilled, and I think they sold more than, I'm not sure if they got to $1 billion of sales, but multiple millions of sales or dollars of sales, but just because they were able to differentiate themselves. But it's not as if they came out of the blue to like a blue ocean and there were no competitors,
Yeah, I think Gymshark, and I've watched different like stories on it and stuff, but I think that they did start the drop shipping and then they decided to make their own clothing line and kind of steer away from that drop shipping space and go to the brand development space is what I think is kind of how that ended up playing out for them, because they found that it would be more productive for them to just make their own clothing than drop shipping it, and then they sell more money, make more money.
Yeah, for sure. I think brand development eventually, if we go back to the spectrum that we discussed before, it's a spectrum of when you start out, you should start. I mean, if you don't have the capital, it's very convenient to start as drop shipping. But as time goes by and you have market validation and you have your operations in place and you have more knowledge, it makes sense to develop the brand and invest in inventory and improve all the aspects of your game by fulfilling orders faster and creating better marketing assets, stuff like this. But dropshipping is a great starting point, and Gymshark, as you mentioned, they started as dropshipping. They were a bit successful, and then they just went on and scaled it.
Now they have multiple board members. It's $1 billion company. Sure. I think he was only 29 when he became a billionaire. Nice. Something like that. Yeah. What is your definition of a good leader versus a bad leader? And I'm sure you probably have had this in the military and your employment previous before working for yourself.
Oh, it's a great question today. This is also a very philosophical question because depends. It depends on the context. So for me, in the army, a good leader was a leader that I could trust, but it didn't necessarily mean that he was very comfortable to work with, or I enjoyed working with him, or he was like teaching me stuff, but I felt I could trust him. But let's say if in a company, so depends what are the metrics, are the KPIs that we're optimizing for. So a good leader might be a leader that is able to create cash for the company. A good leader can be considered someone who is a great teacher and empowers his employees or his C-level executives. So it really depends. But setting aside like the definition and the philosophy, I think that a good leader is someone who treats. I think it's mainly about making the people that you work with better. I think this is the main point.
Good.
Just like off the bat, but I probably need to think about this more.
How many e-com stores do you have?
I currently have only one, but I'm consulting for a few more.
Okay. Have you always only ever had one, or have you had a couple and kind of sold them off? And then...
No, we when we were testing, we had a few, but then we doubled down on one specific. I mean, after like 3 or 4 years, we doubled down on one, and I don't think it really matters how many stores you have, because even when we had like 4 different stores, we had the same backend. So it depends on the architecture, but one store can be as complex as 4 stores, and 6 stores can be as easy as 1 store, because it depends on the architecture and how you build like the backend and the front end. But to answer your question, I currently have one.
What exactly do you sell?
So mostly going back to the question, to the answer that I gave before, mostly products that are targeting very broad audience, specifically women, that solve like a big pain. So it can be shapewear or lingerie, stuff like this.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out?
As I said, I think get a job that is related to ecom, assuming that you want to be in the ecom game. And this is also an important decision that has to be made, because many people by default they say, okay, I want to start dropshipping, because dropshipping is being marketed by gurus as an easy route. But I don't think dropshipping is necessarily the easiest route, nor is the most profitable route. So before even deciding whether or not you want to start going like the ecom route, I think you should consider, assuming that you want to make money online. So I think you should consider the alternatives in the make money online space. And let's say that you decided that you want to do ecom. So I think the best thing would be to find a job that is related to ecom. And while doing so, start building your store, consuming courses and YouTube, content while you have the store, because you don't want to procrastinate you just consuming knowledge. You also need to like get out there and create.
What opportunities have you gotten that have stemmed from being in the e-com business?
Yeah, so another big benefit of starting in the dropshipping business is you gain a lot of skills regarding running a business online, because I was kind of an one-man show. My wife later on helped me, but since I was a one-man show, I touched many aspects of an online business. So I was in charge of the accounting, I was in charge of the media buying, I was in charge of the customer support, fulfillment, hiring, everything. So later on, obviously, I hired people and delegated and automated stuff. But when you just start out as a dropshipping store owner, you get your hands dirty on many different aspects of running a business. And I think these are great skills that you can learn. And dropshipping allows you to do this pretty easily, because it's a necessity, because you don't have a lot of capital, but you do need to do many different things in order to be successful. So I think, regarding a question, since I know to do a lot of stuff and in a considerably high level, so I got a lot of offers, mainly consulting and mentoring offers.
What's a good, and this is probably subjective to the product, but what is a good revenue, or profit to make, like say per month or in a year on a dropshipping store?
It's a very broad question. It really depends how much. I mean, let's say in the Shopify game, it depends how much you spend. So and also in this, there are different type of business models. Some people, they are aiming for very big volume with very small, very slight profit margins. Other people, they are aiming for very low volume of sales, but with very high profit margins. And all of this is dependent on the amount of money that you're able to spend on ads. So some people do like 20K yearly, and some people do 30 million yearly. So it really depends on the size of the operation and what are you willing to spend. But let's say if you're doing drop shipping, I think you have like a cap at about 3 or 4 million yearly. I don't think that it's very easy to go beyond this if you're like solely drop shipping without like doing any brand development.
Okay. So if we're like to put it on, like, I guess dumbed down terms, like if I say I spent like 10,000 oh, you said 20,000 a year. So say you spend like 1,000 a month. Like, what would be a good number of profit that you should make, minus your ads and whatever it costs you to run the store? Would you say would be like good numbers, roughly?
Yeah, I think I think most of the e-commerce stores, they operate at about 20% profit margin.
Okay.
And they are spending about 50% on ads. So let's say you spend 1,000K, you're supposed to sell 2,000K. I mean, this is the retail. I mean, the revenue, and the profit is supposed to be 20%. So I would be assuming that you will make $400 if you spend 1,000K.
Okay. Yeah, that makes it dumbed down there. I like that. There we go. Let's see. What advice would you give to your teenage self, knowing everything that you know now?
Mm. Double down on learning to code.
Why?
I think this is a very important skill, especially these days when it's becoming even easier to automate stuff, because there are four different types of levers that you can pull. One is capital. You pour in money and you get results faster. The other lever is hiring people. This is the second lever. The third lever is media, using like free media, let's say YouTube, stuff like this, in order to get to more people. You do only one video, one podcast, and you can get to a million of people if you have big exposure. And the fourth lever is automating and coding, because one person can achieve things that 200 people can achieve because he can just automate stuff. And the computer, he doesn't take days off, and he doesn't become tired, and he is scalable. So this is why I think coding is so important.
So where did you kind of start to look into coding? Like, did you have a background in college at all, or did you just kind of self-learn?
Yeah, so I wouldn't consider myself like a coder or developer, but I studied in high school a bit of coding, and I also studied during the degree. And till this day, I'm doing mostly a lot of automations, not necessarily coding with Python or like any front end. I'm not building I'm mostly using no code solutions, but I'm also using robotic process automations platforms such as Microsoft Power Automate, which allow me to automate without necessarily knowing a lot of code. So I do have some background, understand the logic from high school, but I don't consider myself a coder, and I don't think it's such an unattainable skill. I think anybody can start, to be honest.
What is your life purpose, and when do you know you found it, or have you even found it yet?
Another great question. I think I'm not sure I'm not sure about my life purpose. I do have a Northern Star. I mean, I used to have, like, when we just started, when we quit our jobs, our Northern Star was freedom. We wanted freedom. So we left Israel, we went on traveling, we went to Thailand, we went to South Africa, and we just wanted to travel while the business was running. And after about 3 years, I felt like my freedom was met. I mean, I felt already free, quote unquote, although also what is the definition of freedom is also a different podcast conversation. But I changed my Northern Star to fulfillment. And now I'm seeking fulfillment, which is also a very slippery definition. But this is kind of what I'm looking for in the long term. And in the short term, I think it's very easy to optimize my life for excitement. So if I wake up in the morning and I know that I have something exciting to expect towards, so this makes me happy. But I'm not sure what is my life purpose, but it's easier to optimize for excitement. Long story short, I mean, I hope this answers your question, but this is
No, that's
in a
good.
nutshell.
So I should have asked this early on. What it was,
Mhm.
what was it like, or what is it like living in Israel or being in Israel?
Um, I mean, I grew up in Israel, and I didn't grow up anywhere else, so I don't have a lot of comparisons to make. So when you're in your hometown or in the country that you were born, so you kind of live in a bubble, and it's very hard to see, like, to observe things from the outside. But now when we left Israel in the last 4 years, as I mentioned already, we've been traveling. So I think Israel is a great place, very competitive, a lot of abundance, and people in general very warm. Um, but on the other hand are a bit of, I don't know, I wouldn't say aggressive, but I enjoyed my childhood, but I think in Israel is a very interesting place, especially for visiting, but I don't think it's necessarily a great place to live at the moment because it has become very expensive and also very, very competitive and kind of aggressive.
Okay. Who's been your biggest role model?
I have a few. I think if I had to pick one, probably Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Why is that?
Um, because he has achieved many things in his life in many different games. So it's one thing, he isn't a one trick pony. So it's one thing to be like the Mr. Olympia and win many bodybuilding shows, but he also went on and became a governor, and he also became a movie star. So he was successful in different vectors, and this is something that to me sounds appealing because I don't think it's easy to be successful in one vector, but it's definitely easier if you focus all your efforts on one specific things and neglect all the other things, all the other aspects of your life. Finding success is a bit easier, but to be successful in many different vectors in many different games is way more challenging, and this is why I look up to him, because I think he was able to pull it off in different realms.
Looking back on all your adversities, experiences, and challenges, is there anything that you would want to change?
No, I wouldn't want to change anything, and I think this is a matter of perspective. And who I am today is because of what happened in the past. So whether it was adversities or wins, it's all a matter of perspective. And I choose to be happy about who I am today and what I have accomplished. And whatever adversity that happened back in the days, I consider it a blessing because it has turned out well. Because I am here today, I'm healthy and happy.
What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Oof. Okay, it's a quote actually. I have many quotes that I like, but I will go with it's a quote by Epictetus, which is a Stoic philosopher, and he says basically it's a passage about different aspects of philosophy, but the bottom line he's saying the Olympic games are now, and in the context of this passage, what he's trying to convey is the fact that the decision that you have at this moment is the most important decision that you have. This is like the time that you're trained for, and this is the Olympic Games. So whether it doesn't matter if it's you're dieting and you're kind of don't know if you should cheat and take the dessert or not. And so this is the Olympic Games. So this is the moment of truth. So every moment in your life is the moment of truth, and you can decide whether or not you will do what you wanted to do, or you're going to take the easier route and kind of let yourself down.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, what is the worst piece of advice that you've ever received from somebody?
Play safe.
Why would you say that?
Because playing it safe isn't exciting, it's not fun, and it won't get you anywhere. So what's the point?
That's true. I feel like that's like a typical, not typical, I guess in that sense that I'm thinking of, but like I guess most people typically play it safe. So like that's why you find it interesting that like when these like companies come out or you see these people come out of nowhere, and people are just like negative connotation. Like just go get a job and have a family, and then like that's it. Like you're good, play it safe, right? But it's not like
Yeah.
it's not really that, is it? At the end of the day, it's about like being an entrepreneur, like building new things, trying new things, doing new things, failing, um, I was talking to my last guest that I had on. We talked about failing, and it's like,
Hmm.
kind of. I feel like playing it safe is the same thing. There's a negative connotation between uh failure, right? Because everybody's like, "Oh, failure's bad." Because I don't know if it's like in
Hmm.
Israel, but like you get, I don't know how you guys do your grading system there, but like
Hmm.
throughout like say grade school and high school and stuff like that, like you get an F, it's like the end of the world, right?
Hmm.
Get A's, B's, C's. Yeah. And it's almost like the same thing with like play it safe, get that job, go to college, have some kids, whatever, and then just kind of go through
Hmm.
life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I also think it's important to emphasize that we are mostly, I mean, in the US and Israel, we are mostly safe anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because the likelihood of your, um, of your needs not being fulfilled is very low. So people need to realize, and I also need to constantly remind myself, the difference between actually being safe and what it means to playing it safe. Because basically, there is no risk at all in trying to build a Shopify store. Because what's the worst case that would happen? It would fail, quote unquote, and you will have to find a job. It's not a risk, you will probably have somewhere to sleep, and you will probably have somewhere to eat, and you will probably have your family which cares for you and loves you. So we are safe. So there's no point in playing it even safer, because we are mostly safe.
What is your favorite quote and why? And I know we kind of went back with this with
Mhm.
best piece of advice, but do you have like one specifically on top of that one that you think that would be that's your favorite?
Yeah, I think it's a quote by Emerson. Successful people do what they have to do, whether they feel like it or not.
That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, I like that as well. And he also has a follow up. I'm not sure if he defined it as a follow up, but it's do the thing and you will have the power. So basically, if you don't, I mean, it's pretty self explanatory. So I'll just repeat it: do the thing and you will have the power.
What so my last guest that I had,
Hmm.
I always ask this is something I've started with like the last couple of interviews.
Hmm.
I asked the question, what piece of advice or information that you would give to the next interviewee? So the last one I had on, the question that he left for you was,
Hmm.
what is your daily routine?
Interesting. So I need to answer this and then give a follow up question to the next guest.
Yeah, so that would be the next question, which would be the second to final question, which would be the same thing. Like, what would you give to the next interviewee?
Okay. So, but do I need to answer my routine first?
Yeah, what's your daily routine,
Okay,
or
sure.
whatever
So,
you're comfortable with sharing?
sure, sure, no problem. So, to be honest, we had our first daughter born, and she was born 15 months ago. So this changed our routine completely. So these days, I just wake up at about 7 a.m. We eat breakfast together, and we go to the park and until about 12 o'clock, 12 a.m. Then she takes a nap before I drink my coffee, obviously, and eat my porridge. And then I try to get shit done until the evening and go to the gym. And in between, obviously, we take care of our daughter that stays at home.
Get shit done. I like that. Um, what piece of advice or information do you want to hear from the next interviewee, or would you want to hear you give?
Mm. What is something you hold to be true, which most of the people would disagree with you about?
That's good. That's good. I felt like I heard that in was it Jay
I think it's a,
Shetty? Is it Jay Shetty who said something similar to that? Because it was
I
good.
think it's a, I think it's a, I mean, I probably heard it in Tim Ferriss show.
Maybe that's where I heard it from.
Yeah,
I've heard that
probably Tim
before. That's
Ferriss.
that's a great question. That's a great question. So the final
I can't take credit. I don't, I'm not going to take credit from Tim Ferriss.
no, but that's just like that's a deep question. That's a good one
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
sure. Um, what is the legacy that you want to leave on the world? It's our final question.
So this kind of relates to the question about my purpose in life. Mm, I'm not sure. I think it is a very dynamic thing. At the moment, all I care about is making my daughter happy, and that my family would be healthy. So I'm not overthinking about legacy. Might be a mistake, but I'm not really concerned about my legacy at the moment.
That's all right, man. So how can people connect with you or find out more who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. And they can look up, Google linkedin.com, Yaron Been. I'm probably the only Yaron Been they can find there. And they can also look up my podcast, which is called the Ecom X Factor Podcast. Also, just looking in Google, they'll probably find me.
All right, man. Hey guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And Ron, it was a pleasure having you on. I've learned a lot. I'm sure people have learned a lot more than I have learned. You were definitely a wealth of knowledge, and I hope people will also reach out to you for more advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
It was good.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Until next time, we'll see you later.